Hello and welcome to College Game Day with Bob and Bobby. I'm Bobby Hamlett.
And I'm Bob McGregor. We're here on a hot summer day in New Orleans getting ready for the BCS National Championship game. I know we're here a little early, but I think some good teams are going to show up this year. But before we can really prepare for the game and watch this game, some teams have to make it through the gauntlet. So first, let's look at our Week 6 picks. Bobby?
Alright, game 1, we're going to look at University of Georgia at the University of Tennessee. If you look at Tennessee, coming into this game 3-1, they had a tough loss on the road to Florida, lost by 10 points. Somewhat of a respectable showing though. They did go on the road. They did win at home against Cincinnati in a very convincing 45-23 win. I think that Dooley, in his second or third year now, should be hitting his stride. We'll see if the talent level is up par with the SEC. I think this is a must-win game for Tennessee. When you look at the upcoming schedule, they have LSU at home, they have to go on the road at Alabama, and they have South Carolina at home. That's a brutal stretch, probably the toughest stretch in all the country. So I'm going to say that this is a must-win game for Tennessee. If they look to even go bowl eligible, they probably must win this game. So a lot of weight is then put on Tennessee's shoulders, so we'll see if they rise to the occasion.
3-2 UGA looks okay this year, but I mean their 3 wins have been against some softies from the SEC West, and I mean frankly they lost to Boise State early on. However, Boise State they might be able to get into a BCS game, but with their easy schedule, it just turns out that they just need to join a better conference. So really, UGA really needs to win this game. They're really staying in the SEC East race. They have a really easy schedule coming up the next several games. I mean, their toughest people they're playing against, toughest teams are Georgia Tech and Florida. So hopefully Florida will be playing fairly well later on, but I don't know. We'll see how UGA does. It's really a battle between Mark Richt and Dooley, so we'll see.
This looks like it's going to be a really good game. I'm leaning towards the Bulldogs here. I think Georgia's got enough gusto left in them to take this and get back in the SEC East race.
Well, I really like both of these coaches, so it's really a tough pick for me. I think both of them have pretty good squads. Both of them are pretty young, but I think this really is a must-win for Mark Richt. He's had a tough last few years, and I think the UGA fans really are wanting an SEC title. So I think I'm going to pick UGA as well. So let's look at the wives. What do you guys think?
Georgia at Tennessee. What do you think, Katie? No, it's at home, but I'm going to go with Georgia this week in the underdog approach. Just like Mark Richt, and I got faith in my Bulldogs.
He's a good coach, and I hate that orange, but I think Tennessee's too good at home.
Game 2 is the Miami Hurricanes versus the Virginia Tech Hokies. So, well, let's introduce Miami. Miami's 2-2 so far this year with a big win over Bethune-Cookman, who I don't know if anybody in this whole country knows where Bethune-Cookman is besides an alumni from Bethune-Cookman, who actually had more total yards than Miami, 422 to 335. And then they also blew away Ohio State, who I think the whole starting lineup is on probation right now. So, I mean, Miami, they could have been 4-0 if they could have made it through Kansas State, got a goal line stop there, caused them to lose the game, and then they lost a really close one to Maryland. So we'll really see how this game turns out. 2 big defenders, a defensive lineman and a linebacker, got injured earlier in the season with career-ending injuries, or season-ending injuries, excuse me. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a tough game, but I think it'll be a good one. So, Bobby?
Virginia Tech is coming into this game 4-1 after a very disappointing loss to Clemson last week at home. Virginia Tech lost very, very badly. They usually never lose at home like that, but they got beat 23-3 at home. And a lot of the reason was because of their inept offense. They could not get anything going. Just looked penalties, fumbles, turnovers. They just looked horrible. And you know, that first-year starter quarterback Logan Thomas really didn't look that sharp. Offensive line was good at times, but bad at others. But they were playing a really good Clemson team. I mean, Clemson's number 8 in the country, really high up there in passing yards, really looking solid. So I think a positive to look at for Virginia Tech is their defense. They actually kept Clemson to season lows in yards and points, and really did a decent job of stopping them offensively. So I think the score didn't indicate maybe how good Tech's defense actually played in that game. Tech's defense actually ranks number 10 nationally in sacks, run defense, pass efficiency. I think they're number 4 in total defense this year so far. So they're playing solid on defense. David Wilson, the running back, is rushing the ball very well, 127 yards a game. Looks very solid, very dynamic. He can do 10 backflips in a row. He's pretty stud. He's a pretty big stud. And I think Virginia Tech, really, if they can fix their offensive woes, has a really good shot in this game. I really like Virginia Tech in this matchup, mainly because they're at home, and I feel like the defense is still playing solid. I think Miami has not been able to stop the run. I think they're 105th nationally against stopping the run. I think Virginia Tech's going to have a field day running the ball.
Yeah, Bobby, I have to agree with you. I think Mike O'Kane is really going to make some good decisions this week and call a lot more plays, taking advantage of David Wilson's speed and his ability to run the ball. So I think he's going to have a lot of yards, and I think he's going to show America what kind of ball player he is. So I pick Virginia Tech as well. So let's look at the wives' picks.
Well, boys, can't pick against my Hokies. I'm going with Virginia Tech this week. Now they're coming off an ugly loss from last week, but I still think Miami has enough in them for this Virginia Tech defense. Miami really hasn't been a rivalry in the last 5 or 6 seasons, so got to go Virginia Tech all the way on this one.
I'm going to have to agree, Katie. I know they had an ugly loss last week at home, but I don't think they'll lose 2 in a row at home.
For Game 3, we're going to take a look at Ohio State on the road at Nebraska. Ohio State comes into this game 3-2 with tough losses to Miami and Michigan State. It's been a tough season this far. A lot of allegations before the season. Ohio State's kind of in a whirlwind right now. Frankly, their offense has been offensive. Last week, although they did play the #1 defense in the country in Michigan State, 178 total yards. That's not traditional Ohio State. They had a total of 35 rushing yards on 39 carries. That's less than a yard a carry. That's pretty bad for Ohio State. 9 penalties on top of that. There's no way you're going to win that game. They've had a solid defense, though. Traditionally, Ohio State always puts players in the NFL on the defensive side of the football. I think that should continue. They haven't played so bad this far. Their offense has just been very, very bad. I think you have to look at quarterback play. Joe Balgerman, or whatever his name is, it doesn't matter. He's not that good. He's not the next Craig Krenzel, many Ohio State fans thought. But, you know, looking at that, if their defense can find a way to put it together, get some turnovers, get some scores off turnovers, I think Ohio State might have a chance in this game.
Well, we're looking at number 14, Nebraska. They're 4-1. Well, Nebraska lost well, it was a blowout, actually, to Wisconsin last week. Welcome to the Big Ten Cornhuskers. So, I mean, their offense is doing okay, but really the running game is what's the best this year. They're 9th overall in the country. Martinez, an experienced quarterback, but really the only thing he can do is run the ball. So it's really going to be one of those games if Ohio State can make him throw the ball and stop the run, then I think they have a good chance. But, I mean, with the best weight room in the country, I think Nebraska has a good chance of just continuing to pushing the ball and making those linemen for Ohio State just fall over and open up some big holes. And frankly, what's Ohio State really good at except for breaking NCAA rules? So, Bobby, what's your pick?
In this game, as much as I'd like to think Ohio State has a chance, they don't. I think Nebraska's just too strong here. Their offense is good enough. Ohio State just, again, has no offense. I think that Nebraska's going to roll here.
Yeah, Bobby, I think I have to agree with you again. I really think the Cornhuskers are going to have to bounce back. I think they really will do that this week. I think they're going to take that Wisconsin loss and really storm ahead and just really take advantage of this down-and-out Ohio State team. So let's look at the wives' picks.
I think Nebraska's going to pull through this week, come back from their ugly loss last week over LSU.
Yeah, cheaters never prosper. Going with Nebraska.
Well, game number 4 is going to be, I think, a pretty good game between Auburn and Arkansas. Auburn's number 15 in the country, and they're 4-1. They had a tough loss at Clemson a couple weeks ago, and however, they don't have any SEC losses. I think the dynamic Michael Dyer has averaged 5.5 yards a game and has had 7 touchdowns. So he's already starting to have another great year like last year and really challenging some of those records Bo Jackson set several years back. But I think the biggest surprise is Trotter coming in as a junior quarterback, 9 touchdowns, 60% completion. However, the line is just atrocious, having allowed 11 sacks on Trotter, which is, I mean, can't have that. So Auburn's really going to have to set that up. But, you know, Trotter's no Cam Newton, but Cam also had a great line in front of him. So bad defense, however, has been the thing that's killed Auburn. They were up, beating Clemson 21-7, and they blow the game. So I think Auburn fans are looking at you, Ted Roof. Bobby, what do you think about Arkansas?
We take a look at number 10, Arkansas. See a team here that came off a big comeback win last year. They were down 18 to Texas A&M, number 14 in the country, and really stormed back. Those type of games seem to really carry a lot of momentum, especially in the SEC. I think this Arkansas team, we really don't know how good they are. We know they had a great game last week, really somewhat untested before that. You know that they've got a prolific offense. They're number 7 in the country. Bobby Petrino, head coach, is known for lighting up the passing game last year with Ryan Mallett. So I think they're already throwing over 1,500 yards in, what, 4 or 5 games already. So they're really just passing, it seems like, every down. I think they're really good. They're getting solid play out of their running back, Wingo Jr. Again, they don't run the ball too much, but he's shown last week against A&M that he can get the job done with the ball. This will be the 3rd week in a row that they've now played a ranked team. They went on, remember they lost to Alabama, pretty crushing loss there. Then they've won at Texas A&M, and then they've got Auburn this week. So think off Arkansas, still a lot yet to be determined, but I think this is a pretty good football team.
Well, Bobby, I think this is going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. I think a lot of yards on the run is going to be given up, and I think a lot of yards passing are going to be given up. So, however, I think Auburn's going to squeak out and get another win. I think Michael Dyer is going to have a blow-up game, and I think they're going to come ahead victorious and really surprise all those people who really thought Auburn was going to get it 3 or 4 wins this year. Bobby, what do you think?
I'll have to disagree with you, Bob. I really think that, you know, Arkansas has got a really good offense. I think that they're gonna maybe throw in a little bit more run this game. Auburn's been soft against the run. I think the mixture of pass and run will be too much for the Tigers to handle. But I do agree with you that it'll be a good, close game, very exciting, maybe the most exciting game of the week. So I'm looking at Arkansas winning this game.
Let's look at the Wives picks.
I know this is your team, Courtney, so I've got to go with Auburn. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game, but I still think Arkansas can do it.
I think it's going to be a tough game for the Tigers on the road. I know they fell apart defensively against Clemson a few weeks back, but won big on the road at South Carolina last week. I'm going with Auburn.
For Game 5, we're going to take a look at the Red River Shootout between number 3 Oklahoma and number 11 Texas. When you look at number 11 Texas, they come into this game undefeated at 4-0. Still a lot that we don't know about this Texas team. We know they've beaten Rice. Is that Uncle Ben's Rice? I don't know, but they've beaten the Rice team. They've beaten UCLA, BYU, and Iowa State. Really a lot of teams that I don't think they've shown too much just yet. This is not the traditional powerhouse, Ricky Williams, Texas-style offense. But I think if you look at what's kind of interesting to see, I don't know if you've looked at statistics in games, but they've got a quarterback named Case McCoy and a wide receiver named Jackson Shipley. They just happen to be the brother of former Texas quarterback Colt McCoy and brother wide receiver of former Texas wide receiver Jordan Shipley. So kind of interesting seeing those guys being their leaders offensively. This Texas team there was an interesting little dynamic into this game. The last few battles in the Red River Shootout have been very close, back and forth type of battles. Texas and Oklahoma always seem to have a good matchup. So just because Oklahoma's number 3 doesn't mean that Texas isn't going to show up and play big in this game. It's a rivalry game. We know that anything can happen. Wouldn't surprise me if Texas gets up on them early. Really looking forward to this game. Should be very exciting.
Oklahoma's 4-0 this year so far. I mean, their only big game has been against FSU. They won that game 23-13. However, FSU's quarterback got injured in the 3rd quarter, I believe, and I don't know. It really was hard to determine if that was really a good play by Oklahoma or if that just really was a big hindrance for FSU. I mean, it was close when he ended up getting injured. So, however, Oklahoma is 5th nationally in passing yards, and junior quarterback Landry Jones has done a great job with pass completion at 71% and has had 10 touchdowns this year. But, also you have to keep in mind that's been against teams that aren't that great. So, I mean, Tulsa, Missouri, they're fair. But, I mean, this game does have national title implications on it. So, I mean, I think this is a good one to watch. And I think it'll end up being a pretty good game. But, I mean, Bob Stoops, being the defensive mastermind that he is, I think Oklahoma is going to put up a really good defense, really good battle against this Texas team. So let's look at our picks. What do you think, Bobby?
Kind of torn on this game. It's a rivalry game, could go either way, but I think Oklahoma's just too strong at this point. I think their offense is really clicking. I think that, again, they always got wide receivers. They're always passing the ball well. I think Oklahoma's going to be a little bit too much for Texas in this game.
I think I'm going to have to agree with you, Bobby. I think Oklahoma is going to be a much better team. I think Texas is going to show their weaknesses this game, and Oklahoma really is going to take charge and really show that they're a national title team and they really could go on and be in that big game. So let's look at the wife's picks.
We've got the rivalry game of Texas and Oklahoma, and although it's at a neutral site, I think rivalry games, anything can happen. So although Oklahoma is number 1, I'm going to go with the Longhorns on the upset. I think Oklahoma is slightly overrated.
I'm going to have to disagree, Katie. I think the Sooners are going to pull it out. They've just got too much on the line. National title hopes in the future.
Well, game number 6 is between number 17 Florida and number 1 LSU. Florida's coming off a tough loss to Alabama, number 2 Alabama, who still is number 2. It was a blowout, but I don't know if it was the best indicator of how Florida really is. They lost Jeff Brantley at the end of the first half, but it was really a close game at that point, and Alabama had only gone ahead by 7 points after a interception right on the line of scrimmage. So, I don't know. I mean, I think Florida's looked really good with Rainey and Dips. They've had tons of yards on the ground, some great yards passing. I mean, the offensive coordinator has done a great job with Florida. A lot of these new players that changing offenses. I mean, really the key here is going to be Jeff Driscoll coming off the bench. Freshman, true freshman. I mean, to start in your first game against LSU in Death Valley is going to be a big task, but I think they're really I think the coaches are going to really have him prepared and ready to play. So I think this really could be a really good game. So Bobby, what do you think about LSU?
Let's take a look at number 1 LSU. This team has been very tested. First they play Oregon in a neutral site, a game that many thought would be close. LSU dominated from start to finish. Then they go on the road to Mississippi State for a night game. Any atmosphere in the SEC at night is going to be a tough game. They went through there, came through unscathed. West Virginia, those are some crazy fans. West Virginia, they're probably burning couches, doing all kinds of crazy stuff up there. Goes up there, LSU goes and dominates that game. And then, of course, they beat Kentucky. It seems like everyone in the SEC seems to beat Kentucky except for in basketball. So that's kind of expected. But, this defense, I think, is arguably the best in the country, probably the best defensive line. They bring pressure. They're going to bring it against Florida every down. I really like this defense. I think they're solid all the way around. Maybe their only weakness is their secondary. They gave up almost 500 yards passing to West Virginia, although West Virginia couldn't run. All they could do is pass, so maybe that's expected. But if Florida's going to take advantage of one spot, I think they're going to have to take advantage of that secondary and throw the ball deep. Florida's got the speed to do it, too. I think now that there's a quarterback controversy, Jordan Jefferson, who was suspended for 2 games or 3 games, is now back. He played a little bit last week, but he's already kind of mentioned he wants to be the starter again. Jarrett Lee has done a solid job starting for this team. Can't see this offense being so good. I can't see them really needing him, but maybe when they get the tougher schedule of the SEC, maybe. But that could be a dynamic that really messes with this game. If Jefferson comes in and Jarrett Lee comes in and there's just not fluidity there, then I could see where Florida could jump on that. So The home atmosphere in Death Valley is always crazy. It's going to be so deafening loud. I think that's going to have a huge impact on this game in favor of LSU. All right, let's take a look at our picks. I think, Florida might surprise. You might think they might surprise us here, but I really think #1 LSU and those Tigers are going to come through in this game. I think the atmosphere being at home, the crazy crowd, and the Tigers are just too strong. I just think they're too strong, and they're going to give Florida, those Gators, too much to handle.
Well, Bobby, it might be a really good pick, but I think I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think Florida is going to remember what happened last year with the craziest fake field goal play that I've ever seen in my life, where the ball happened to bounce perfectly to the quarterback or kicker running to the side. So, I really think Florida is going to show up. Those men that played last year and lost that game, that really close game, I think they're going to show up and upset the LSU Tigers, #1 LSU Tigers, at home, at Death Valley, and cause those fans to go home crying. So, I'm picking my University of Florida Gators.
In Death Valley this week, I gotta say LSU. I just think Florida's got too much going on with the injuries, so I'm going LSU.
I am too, Katie. I want to cheer for those Gators, especially for Bob, because I know he loves them, but losing Brantley last week just really, I think, is going to hurt their offense, and they got a young freshman quarterback out there, so I'm going to have to go with LSU in Death Valley. Now we're going to take a look at this week's real picks. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Katie, and this is the Wives Picks.
So we're going to take a look at some Southern Conference play. Samford at Furman this week. Samford enters the game with a 2-2 overall record, but have yet to win that first game in the Southern Conference. They opened the season at home with #3 Georgia Southern. Pretty tough loss, but really didn't look too bad. And last week, won big against Gardner-Webb in a non-conference game, won 41-14. So they're probably hoping they can carry some of that momentum over from last week's game into this week's game against Furman. Looking at their breakdown of the team, Samford's defense leads the league in pass defense efficiency, and they have a great sophomore running back, Fabian Truss, who leads the Southern Conference in all-purpose yards. Taking a look at Furman, they're 3-1 overall this year and 2-0 in league play. They've got a good quarterback, transferred from UCLA. Leads the conference in pass efficiency. So it'll be pretty interesting to see a great defense against the pass versus the league's top passer. So we'll see how that breaks down. Furman also has a good, strong running back in Gerodis Williams, who leads the league in rushing yards. So seeming like it's going to be a pretty heavy run game with both teams. This would be a huge win for the Bulldogs, but a tough on-the-road game. I want to go with my alma mater, but the Bulldogs just haven't been the same since losing 2 key players last year, Bill Cottis and Richie Fordham. Gonna have to go with the Paladins. What even is a Paladin, Katie?
I don't know. What's a rushing herd or running herd, whatever they are. But I got Marshall at UCF this week, and both teams have started the season off with just a couple wins and just a couple losses. UCF's 2-2 under Coach O'Leary, and they've started this way for the past several seasons. Hasn't really affected their chances at the conference title because they've pulled through before in past seasons. But UCF's got 2 losses to some pretty bad teams. They should have won over FIU 2 weeks ago, and then last week another blunder to BYU. These were pretty bad choke jobs. But they got 2 big wins, 62-0 over Charleston Southern. Who's Charleston Southern anyway? Sorry, Rick, I love you. And then Boston College the week after that. And so UCF, they're doing pretty well. They've got a really young quarterback. I mean, he's a sophomore, but he just doesn't have the passing efficiency that they need. He's quick to tuck the ball and run. Hasn't even scored a passing touchdown this season. Marshall, on the other hand, they haven't beat UCF for the past 6 times they've played them, but they do have a lot of good experience on their team. A lot of good seniors that are looking to break that streak. Even last week we talked with Vinnie Curry, who's the senior defensive end, and he told us after their big win over Louisville last week, he said he didn't even think about the win longer than 30 seconds, and then he was on to thinking about this week's game versus UCF. So I know they're fired up. They want to lead this team to the victory over UCF. I'm going to have to go with UCF this week. My alma mater, go Knights. They're at home. It's their first conference game, so I'm just hoping they can pull it out this year and win the title. So